Hey guys, Felix here, and in today's video, we are going to go over the step-by-step process, internal process that we use to help our clients get business line of credit without having to submit any documentation, bank statements, or financial documents. Okay. With that being said, let's get right into it. So, a lot of times, in order for your business or for you to qualify for a business line of credit, you need to fall under this tier, right? It's very different from your traditional business credit cards that you go online and just apply. While you can apply for certain business line of credit online, a lot of 80% of the other lenders, 90% of the lenders out there will require you to meet in branch, or you need to have that one-on-one conversation with them, right? So, number one, on the personal side, you do need to meet these requirements, right? Because aside from the assessment that they do on your business to qualify for a business line of credit, they're also going to pull in data on your personal side to see how well of a borrower you are, the status of those accounts, because those are going to be weighted pretty heavily on top of your business and how that perform. So you just want to make sure your personal credit meets the following requirement here, which is being above 700 plus, having less than 4 inquiries per credit bureaus in the last 12 months, no collections, child support bankruptcies or charge-offs, and then making sure that your personal credit is seasoned and you have a diversify number of accounts, rather it's mortgage, car loan, revolving credit card accounts, student loans. It helps if you have a mix of diversified credit accounts stated on the personal side, right? Now, on the business, you want to make sure all of those are aligned as well. But the biggest one is the number of years in business. You need to be at least 2 years minimum in business to qualify for a lot of these business line of credit options that's out there in the marketplace, right? You will also need to make sure you have some sort of statements ahead of time just to prepare, because there are lenders, right, that do no docs. There are some lenders that will require docs, and you just want to make sure you prepare for those lenders that do ask for documentation at the end of the day as well, right? So it's very applicable for businesses that are over 2 years on the personal side, meeting those requirements that you're seeing on the screen, and then making sure that the business is generating anywhere between 15,000 minimum on the low end in monthly revenue. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to do is evaluate the type of relationship that you have. Who are you currently banking with? What type of products that you currently have? Because that would allow you to go for the lowest hanging fruit. Meaning, a lot of banks are willing to approve you for funding if you already have an existing relationship with them. So when you audit your credit report, when we look at the business credit profile, we check out their Dun& Bradstreet, we check out their, if all of the information listed on there is aligned with what they have, because the number one thing on why a lot of these application gets declined is because the information isn't consistent. So you want to make sure if you change addresses, all of those are updated on the business credit report. You can go to nav.com, get one for like a small fee, but it will really break down everything that you should know regarding your business and where the business credit is currently standing at. Number two, it's evaluating, who do you bank with currently on the business side, right? On the personal side, it might help a little bit. So, for example, if you have American Express personal credit card and the American Express business credit card, you can potentially apply for the Amex business line of credit. They do online application, but they are revenue based, so they do ask you to submit your banking account, so their algorithm can check your past 3 or 6 months of processing statements, how much revenue you're making, and then come up with a approval amount just based off those information, right? Um, on top of that, whoever you bank with on the business end, for example, you have a business and you bank with Chase, for example, and all of the processing, revenue, payments goes through the business checking account. Those are the banks that you want to prioritize when it comes to applying for business credit cards or business line of credit. And a lot of times they already have that internal information stored in their database, and it's very likely they might not ask for documentation, because in that case you're already an existing customer with them, right? So that's the best approach I like to take, and that's why I recommend a lot of business owners starting out to diversify your banking relationships on the business checking side. Start with their tier one products, which is business credit cards. Once you show some sort of history that you're a good borrower, you're paying on time, you're cash flowing pretty well, then it start opening up opportunities on business loans, business line of credit that way, right? After we meet all of those requirements, and let's just say your business meet all of those requirements, as well as the information being consistent on the business credit report, you want to head over to this tool, Bank Branch Locator. What this tool basically does is accumulate all of the banking institutions, whether it's credit unions, regional banks, or your top institutions like Chase Bank of America, PNC, US Bank, Truist, etc., into this database, and they filter it by zip code. So, for example, let's just say you live in California and your zip code is 915. You will click on this, and what I like to do is do it on a 25-mile radius, right? So I will click on 25-mile radius right over here. And then what it will basically do is filter out all of the banks within a 25-mile radius of that zip code to see what type of options you have, right? So from there, what I would typically like to do on my days off is I will call each banking institution and just ask them, just play phone with them and just ask, hey, what are the data points when it comes to applying for a business line of credit? Do I need to have a checking account with you? What are some of the credit scores that you look on the business and on the personal side? How much, in revenue does the business need to be generated on? Are you guys okay with lending in this specific industry? Which bureau do you pull from? So you're basically collecting data points and really understanding and preparing yourself before moving forward with that process on which of those pool of banks within that 25-mile radius that you can potentially apply and stack with them and go from there, right? So, for example, prioritizing the lowest hanging fruit, the banks that you already have a relationship with, rather it's Chase, rather you're banking with Bank of America, you would just go in branch and talk with a banker and just ask them the following questions. Hey, if I were to apply for a business line of credit, what are the chances of me getting approved? How does that process look like? Is it streamlined? What type of documentations would you require? Some programs out there, they don't require any documentation if you're requesting for 50,000 business line of credit or less, or even 100,000 or less. For example, I just got approved for a 95,000 business line of credit with Chase because I'm banking with them, and they didn't ask for any sort of verification documents, and the closing process is very easy. It took me like 2 weeks to get everything in order to make sure my information aligned with what I'm stating on the application, with what they're seeing on the business credit report. So again, you want to make sure all of those foundation are correctly formed ahead of time before you move ahead in the filtering process and speaking with any sort of bankers, right? So what I would like to do on my days off is I would just contact each branch of each individual banks, right? Because how one branch underwrite would be a little bit different than how a different branch under the same bank would underwrite as well. So that's something that I noticed when we start doing when we start, calling in and talking to the banker, collecting information. We fully understand that each bank has different underwriting process, and each branch on top of that have different underwriting process and not very similar. Okay, so what I would do is I would create a list of banks 25-mile radius from where your zip code or the business zip code is at, because those are the banks that will lend to you in that state, and they're willing to, yeah, obviously work with you if you're in that state, as compared to certain regions. They might not lend to let's just say I want to apply for a bank in New York, obviously, and I'm based in California. They're not going to take you in, right? So understanding, what are your options ahead of time, and then creating a list. And then what you're also is building a contact list of bankers. Those are your lifelong partners when it comes to scaling your business, getting capital, right? Because these are the people that can hit you up and tell you, hey, we have this program going on. I think it would be best for your business to apply. We can actually expedite this process. We can, give you a really good rate, because all of them are in competition of each other to have your business. And it's good to diversify and have different options available for you, right? So what I do is have an Excel sheet with the type of questions I ask. I would just be like, hey, this is Felix. I run a online marketing company. I run a online service based company. We're currently doing roughly 650,000 to 1 million per year. We're projected to obviously do a lot more by the end of this year, right? What they like to see is year over year growth of like 15% or 20% of your revenue, or even the cash and whatnot, right? So Obviously, you want to say the right things in order to encourage the banker to work with you. You don't want to be like, hey, last year we did 1 million, but this year we're doing like $300 in. It's very unlikely. That's one of the red flags that, hold lenders back from wanting to work with you, is because they don't see the business as potential. They see that you're going downhill, and it's very risky on their end if they were to provide that sort of capital to you or even consider working with you, right? So that's where the vetting process comes in. Each bank have different underwriting process. Each bank have different, requirements that they need. But doing your research and really hitting the phone at the end of the day to spend 1 day contacting all of those banks, and you can potentially get like additional 250,000 of business line of credit just by simply doing and putting work in, right? So now let's say you identify, out of these 15 banks, two of the banks that's willing to do no doc streamline for 100,000 or less. You need to consider, you need to understand, how you can stack that, right? At most, we stacked 3 business line of credit, actually 4 at once. We did it with an online lender, Fundbox, right? That's an online application. They're more revenue based. I submitted my bank statements, connected my checking account. They gave me 50,000 approval, right? I got that, and then I went to Chase, did that, got 95,000. At the same time, I went with U.S. Bank, have a relationship with one of the bankers. Also have my checking account open for over a year, right? And we got like 75,000 on that. But you can start stacking the business line of credit, and that's how you're able to really improve and maximize the amount of funding that you can get at once. And that's from the information that you gather from the banks and institutions around your area, right? So main questions you want to ask again is what credit score you're looking for, what bureau you guys are pulling from, how does the business line of credit process works, what is sort of like the minimum that we can ask for that wouldn't really require too much bank statements, right? I wouldn't necessarily just point out I don't want to submit bank statements because that would raise red flag. You would just switch it up and say, hey, how can we streamline this process and get approved pretty quickly? Do I need to open up a business checking account with them, right? A lot of times banks are willing to, approve you or even consider, giving you capital if you decide to bank with them. So upon closing on the business line of credit, they're going to ask you to open up a business checking account with them and deposit some money. And that's okay, right? Again, you're diversifying your options and you're building a network of lenders that you can potentially go back to with your other businesses to apply for more funding, right? So there is a lot that you need to do. By the end of the day, it's the groundwork that makes this such a successful process for you in terms of raising capital, and it's just a matter of doing research, making sure you follow the process, make sure your business meets those requirements, your personal credit meets those requirements, and the information staying consistent on both the business credit report and also on what you state on those applications itself. Okay. So hope this is helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And again, my name is Felix, and we help entrepreneurs, acquire 0% funding and business line of credit to scale their business or invest into passive income opportunities. And I'm gonna link down a free community that you guys can join right over here. We have over 800 members where we talk all things business credit, maximizing funding, and scaling your business. Okay. With that being said, see you guys in the next video.